TNC, Original African Stories. Listener discretion is advised as this podcast may contain violence or strong language.
Previously on Aso Ebi.
Hello.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
Are you always so uptight, like you sit like you have a rod up your back?
I see old habits die hard. Minnie and her books. Inseparable.
Zeno!
Her body started to vibrate again. Jayola placed his black leather briefcase at the entrance of the kitchen. She narrowed her eyes, trying to make sure that the t-shirt was the same shade of brown as the man she had seen earlier. He stopped when he reached the carved wooden door at their bedroom and turned sharply.
Are you alright, sugar?
She bit her lips this time and made a fist so tight that her nails felt like they were drilling a hole in her palm. She stared at him for almost a minute and smiled.
I'm alright, Jay. I'm very good. Why won't I be?
Gay. Uncle Jay don't enter hot soup today. Welcome back to the longest flashback in flashback history. And in this particular flashback, it's a Monday. Now there's something odd about this particular Monday morning. It could be the fact that there's hardly any traffic in Lagos, or that Jayola Gbadebo's black Mercedes has an extra stranger in it, which is very strange. Even more strange, the passenger, the lovely Mrs Gbadebo, looks like she's dressed for work. We investigate. Moini pressed her thumb firmly on the power button of her phone until the screen turned dark. Zeno had incessantly called her phone all weekend and twice already since the day started. She expected that he would have gotten her silent message. The Zeno she remembers is genius at decoding non-verbal messages. She threw her phone in her black bag and struggled to put her nude court shoes on.
Hold on, babe. Let me help you with that.
Jayola offered, pointing at her feet. She let out a sharp hiss before putting her right leg on his open hand. He stared at her irritated face and gently slid her foot into the shoe.
Mo, what's going on? You've been so irritable lately.
He held her pointed chin between his two fingers and turned her face to his.
Have I done something wrong? I'll make it up to you if I have. You know I will.
She fluttered her eyelashes severally and successfully stopped herself from hissing again. His eyes looked so innocent, yet she could not shake off the feeling that the hug she saw between him and that woman 2 days before was not at all innocent. She glanced at the rearview mirror and saw the driver's eyes watching them. Now was not the time. She had more important things to think about.
I'm fine, Jay. It's hard, moody, but I'm fine,
she said, giving him a reassuring smile. He tapped the back of her hand, resting on her lap.
This one that you are dressed formally to visit a friend on a Monday morning.
Moini smiled and busied herself with her reflection in her compact mirror.
Madam, we are at the place now.
The driver alerted them before she had a chance to reply. She looked at the fairly inconspicuous signpost on the high-rise glass building and took a deep breath. She lightly tapped his stomach.
We need to do something about this your pot belly. It's getting a bit too big for my sensibilities.
She pulled at the hem of her skirt and heard him say behind her,
That skirt is too tight, oh.
She ignored his protest with a smile and began walking towards the entrance. The heat that surrounded her for the last 30 minutes was slowly being replaced by the cold air that filled the room. The sound of her voice, like meaningless ramble, echoed in her mind's ears as she watched the panel of interviewers on the other side of the long glass table, taking down notes. She smiled, thankful that there was no woman on the panel.
Very good. Moini, right? You should hear from us very soon. Let's say within a week, okay?
The tall, balding man with a grey mustache announced and looked at the other two men to his left who nodded in unison. She got up smartly and shook all three men firmly before leaving the room. There was a tone in the man's voice that she didn't like.
You should hear from us very soon,
she repeated in her head. She had been a little nervous, but she was certain that none of them could tell. She shrugged and crossed her fingers before picking up the pace towards the exit.
Mrs Gbadebo!
She stopped and turned in the direction of the voice. The lady at the reception desk motioned to her to stop. She cited one of the men on the panel, the tall, balding one, who had obviously been the most senior person there, walking with a slight limp towards her. He was wearing a suit that was a few sizes too big, and his lanky frame and limp made him look like he would lose balance and keel over any minute now. She smiled slightly at him when he got closer, hoping to establish some professional warmth. Failing to reciprocate, he led her into an empty glass room near the entrance and carefully shut the door behind him.
I have another appointment in a few minutes, so I'll make this very quick, okay?
He drew out a chair for her and stood beside her, casting a shadow over her. She nodded in response.
Your interview was brilliant. Your resume, impressive too, but...
You know how they say that during an interview, everything the interviewer tells you before, but is more or less irrelevant to your case? Yeah, exactly that.
The only work experiences you have are internships you took years ago. You haven't worked in 5 years, am I right? And that's the problem for us.
His face remained as stern as it was in the interviewing room. His mustache was ugly on his face and looked like it was shaved off a dead rat. She opened her mouth to respond, but he continued.
I see that you have a lot of potentials, but we have seen candidates that are just as good as you are, with more recent experience. However, we can help you. So, help us, okay?
He tore a piece of paper from the thick notepad on the long oval glass table, picked up the pen beside it and scribbled on the paper. Rising, he stretched the paper to her and said with a single stern expression she had associated his face with.
I'll be at Southern Sun this evening. That's my number and the room number in case you can't reach me.
She stared at the combination of numbers on the paper for a while, shocked at what he was implying. Had he not seen that she was married? It is stated clearly on one of the million of forms she had filled before the interview. She was about to speak when she heard the door shut, leaving her in the room with a piece of paper that was as ugly as that mustache on his face. Ugh. At about the same time, the nurses at St. Francis Hospital discussing amongst themselves, surprised that Dr. Anita was yet to perform her daily yelling ritual. Silence was rare when she was on duty, but today, even Anita was in a fantastic mood.
Mama, it's okay,
Anita said to the aged woman that was about to drop to her knees in gratitude. She rushed out of her chair to stop the woman's knees from touching the ground and pulled her up and gave her a hug.
Hey, God bless you, doctor. God bless you, no be small. So good people like you see there.
Anita felt a warm sensation in her heart, rising like steam to the top of a pot. She had not anticipated this type of reception from her simple good deed. All she had done was deliver her gate man's wife of beautiful triplets through her expertise and funded the required medical bills from her purse. She got a discount as a member of the hospital staff, and she decided to use it for poor Honoriode's wife, who obviously needed extra care for such a complex delivery. It was the right thing to do and had not even put her out of pocket too much. So the woman's effusive thanks embarrasses her a little.
It's all right, Mama,
she said for what must have been the 100th time.
Doctor, I beg you, come. It get one matter where I want to tell you.
The woman said as she mopped her tears with the roll of tissue paper Anita handed her.
Doctor, I know say you be good person. And my pikin husband don't tell me say you never get husband. I take God beg you. No verse, no verse. But I be one give you one small advice. As mama where I be, and even grandmama.
She pressed her lips together, folded her arms, and sighed in a manner that suggested that she was troubled. Anita was wary of this impending advice, but nodded at her to continue.
Doctor, you know say we be woman. We fit talk true for here. We too know say woman get expiry date. Woman dey expire. Small time now to get pikin go dey hard you. As you dey wait the better man so. We I know say God go must give you. You fit find the one wey go give you pikin first. Ma tell you, God no go first. Yes, ma. Thank you, ma.
Later that night, after Charles had called, pressed Anita's mumu button again, and then proceeded to press other more interesting parts of her body with other interesting parts of his own body, Anita dismissed the thought of how stupid she was for asking him to come over when he called for the upteenth time. It had been a long day, and she needed something to relax her after all the activity and excitement of the day. Besides, he called her first. The rhythm of his heartbeat playing directly into her right ear, combined with his fingers running through her hair, was the perfect icing on the delicious man cake that she had just been served. He was the only person that understood her body. Sometimes, she was certain he knew it more than she did. She rolled off his supine body and wrapped herself in satin sheets. Charles dragged the sheets off her body and flung them on the carpet. He suspended his torso a little above her, shoved his tongue in her mouth, and kissed her until she was breathless. He sat up and reached for his phone on the small chest of drawers next to the bed. She looked up at him and watched the monotonous dance of his Adam's apple. Why was he not ready to settle down and give them a chance? If only he would just say the word. The odd advice from the gate man's mother-in-law came to her head again, and she smiled as a sudden mad thought crawled from her brain to her tongue. She sat up and looked at Charles again.
I think I want a baby.
She heard herself say as she playfully traced the letters of the word baby on his arm. She heard the sound as though it had come from far away. Charles's muscles tensed. Her eyes widened when she realized that he had heard her. He turned sharply and looked at her for a brief second before he climbed down from the bed wordlessly, picked up his pair of black trousers from the floor and started to put them on.
Where are you going?
Home?
He replied as he clothed himself in a hurry. He seemed as though the air in the room was attacking him and he needed to get out.
I thought you were spending the night.
He did not reply her. Instead, he picked up his keys from the vanity table, threw on his t-shirt and walked out of the room. She stared at the slightly ajar door in shock and listened to the stomp from his feet as he ran down the stairs like he was being chased by a pack of wolves. Never again, she thought to herself as her warm tears began to flow from her eyes of their own volition. She did not make a sound. A foreign silence and sense of loneliness that she had never experienced filled her bedroom, and she glanced at the spot Charles had occupied only a few minutes ago.
Fuck you, Charles! Never again! Nah, I'm done! I actually want a baby! I want a baby!
She said to herself as she stretched in the direction of the foot of the bed to switch on the television. She picked up her phone and selected the number of the guy that was always there for her when she needed him and activated the phone's speaker.
Hey, you.
Her head began to pound as a sort of confused stubbornness regarding her situation replaced her anger at Charles.
Are you still on the island?
Nah, got home about 30 minutes ago.
Can you come to mine, please? Bami.
It's almost 11 and I'm already in Yaba, Anita.
Bami, please. I need to talk to you and I don't want to. I just can't sleep alone.
Okay, but...
But what?
Never mind. I'll just grab a change of clothes and I'll be on my way.
No, what were you going to say?
I'm coming. Don't worry.
Bami!
I have company.
Oh. Who?
Anita heard her own heart pounding erratically as he said those words.
I met this babe.
Thanks for listening to Aso Ebi, the podcast. Brought to you by The Naked Convos. Produced by 808 Extra. Theme song, Charles Onwubia, a.k.a. Beethoven. Narrated by Feifei. Voice actors, Jojo Amiegbe as Dr. Anita. Ifeoluwa Oladipo as interviewer. Ifeoluwa Oladipo as Charles. Shea Banks as Bami. Jasper Tomomewo as Jayola. Mary Colette Unamka as receptionist. Eniola Keshiro as Moini. Eva Ebele as Onurode's mother-in-law. This podcast is available everywhere you listen to podcasts on. Don't forget to subscribe and share.